All right, it is another beautiful day at Crypto Cove, and it's certainly been a while since we've done this, hasn't it? It's been, I think, a couple months now. And for anyone new to the call or new to watching the replay on YouTube, what these Crypto Cove calls are about is they're basically unofficial calls or supplemental calls where I talk about different topics in the crypto space that I think would be beneficial for crypto users in pool funding, as well as at times just crypto users in general to know. And for today's topic, we're going to be talking about FeedTheWorld coin as well as the Solana chain. Now, required watching for this meeting is a meeting that Ace did, I think, last week's Monday, as of this writing, as of this talking, where we went over FeedTheWorld coin, as well as the fact that several whales are also starting to get interested in that coin and the presentation that surrounded that. So if you haven't watched that meeting yet, I highly advise that you go ahead and go watch it before watching any further here, because otherwise we're pretty much just going to jump right into this. So this might not make a whole lot of sense to you otherwise. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and start screen sharing, and we can go over the agenda for today. All right, and this is in the way. All right, so first on the agenda is we're going to do a high-level overview and talk about Solana, because FeedTheWorld coin is based off of the Solana chain. And most of my audience is likely going to be mainly familiar with the Binance Smart Chain or the Ethereum chain. So this will help explain just a little bit as far as what Solana is about and how it's different from Ethereum. They have a brain fart there. All right, so we'll be doing the high-level overview, and then we'll go over how to obtain Solana. Then we'll go over how to swap to FeedTheWorld coin. And then we'll go over how to donate to FeedTheWorld, because these two are not one and the same, as you'll find. Right, moving on. And in this segment, we'll take a quick high-level look at Solana. Now, Solana is one of the most talked about blockchain networks that's completely outside of the Ethereum ecosystem. And hopefully you'll understand a bit about why during this call, again, during this segment. All right, first off, what is Solana? Solana is a high-performance blockchain that was launched in 2020. Its core focus is solving the trilemma of blockchain problems, that being achieving stability, scalability, security, and decentralization, but doing so with a strong emphasis on speed and low fees. And one of the things that sets Solana apart from several other chains is proof of history, or POH. Now, you don't have to know too much about this as a crypto novice, but suffice to say, it's a novel way of time-stamping events for consensus, which helps the network stay in sync and run efficiently at scale. It's also worth noting that Solana is a layer 1 chain, for those of you familiar, like Ethereum, meaning it doesn't rely on rollups or external scaling solutions. Key features. Compared to Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain, Solana is built from the ground up to prioritize throughput and cost efficiency. It can handle thousands of transactions per second, and transactions usually cost less than a cent, making it ideal for things like gaming, real-time applications, payments, and DeFi at scale. And it's especially useful when you need low latency interactions like updating a game state or streaming token payments. All right, moving on. Solana's roots go back to 2017 when the idea of solving scalability using proof of history was first explored. The network launched in 2020 in public beta, and by 2021, it had a major breakout moment with NFTs, particularly with marketplaces like Magic Eden and NFT collections like the Generates, somewhat similar to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, if anyone here is familiar with those. And between 2021 and 2022, saw huge growth in developer activity. And today, it's consistently one of the top chains in terms of usage, both by transactions and active applications, even despite some well-known growing pains. And here's a quick side-by-side comparison for those coming from either Ethereum or the Binance Smart Chain. Now, Solana is significantly faster than Ethereum, with transactions finalizing in under a second. Now, if we compare that to Ethereum, we find that Ethereum's can take up to 30 seconds to several minutes, depending on network congestion. Fees are also dramatically lower on Solana than on Ethereum. Instead of paying a few dollars in gas, you're often paying fractions of a cent. Now, if anyone here was involved in Ethereum way before pool funding, you know that, well, it got to the point on several occasions where Ethereum gas fees were sky high. I think my record is something like $200 for a bridge that had to take place from Ethereum to another chain. So Solana is definitely a welcome respite from that, even though Ethereum has actually gotten a lot better at that as time has gone on. And in terms of popular applications, now Ethereum dominates in DeFi and NFTs. It's seen as the classic network to put NFTs or other DeFi applications on, and it's seen as one of the most secure places to put applications on. But Solana has also carved out a bit of a niche with fast-moving meme coins, games, and applications that need quick updates on the blockchain. All right, and before we go further, it also helps to translate some of the terminology you might already know. Now, what Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain calls smart contracts, Solana calls programs. The concept is very similar, code deployed on chain, but the architecture and execution model are quite different. Right. Well, it's also work the exact same way in Solana as they do with Ethereum or the Binance Smart Chain. Although many people use applications like Phantom instead of MetaMask. More on that in just a little bit. Tokens on Solana follow the SPL standard, which is the equivalent of ERC20 or BEP20 or other token standards on Ethereum and chains based off of Ethereum. And finally, instead of gas fees, as you know them, Solana uses compute units to measure how much processing power a transaction consumes. It is a very similar concept. Compute units are used pretty much the exact same way as gas fees are on Ethereum, but the user doesn't really worry about or really even see compute units unless they're building apps or debugging. All right, so with that quick overview out of the way, any questions before we continue on? No? Okay, we'll continue on then. And before I go further, there's just something that I want to make absolutely clear here, and I'll go ahead and share my screen again. Take a moment, everyone, to review the two addresses that I have listed here. I'll wait for a second while you all take a look. All right, now, can someone tell me the difference between these two addresses?
Well, the second address looks longer, and it's beginning with a different number than we're used to seeing a 0x in everything that we've done so far with MetaMask and the Binance Smart Chain.
That's right. Now, Solana addresses and Solana itself are not based off of the Ethereum or ERC20 standard. So the addresses are not going to look the same at all. And in fact, for Solana, there is no standard for address prefixes. So this FIBO could look like something entirely different from someone else's Solana address. And in the case of Ethereum or chains based off of Ethereum, like the Binance Smart Chain, addresses are always going to start with 0x, as you see here. So the upshot of that is, because these two standards are incompatible, you cannot send tokens on the Solana chain to an Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain address, and vice versa. If you try doing that, the tokens will be lost. So mute this. So anyway, do not send BSC tokens to a Solana address, and do not send Solana tokens to a BSC address. Some wallet software will prevent you from doing this, but it's just something you need to keep in mind to keep a watch on anyway. All right. Any questions on that before we move on? Alrighty, so next up, we're going to talk about how to obtain Solana, because you need Solana as the gas fee on the Solana chain, as well as to swap to the FeedTheWorld token.
So it's the same coin for both transactions, whereas in MetaMask, we're using USDT and then BNB is our gas fee.
So Solana is the gas token on the Solana chain. It works pretty much the exact same way as BNB works on the Binance Smart Chain that we're used to.
Okay.
All right, so just as a fair warning, this meeting is targeted at people using MetaMask on the desktop extension. Now, if you're using the mobile version of MetaMask, I am sorry, but MetaMask on mobile does not yet support the Solana chain. I do know it is on the roadmap, so that may have changed by the time that you're watching this. But in the meantime, I do recommend the Phantom wallet for Solana on mobile. And I'll post a link to this website in the video description.
So
Now,
there won't be a conflict to have both wallets on mobile?
no conflict at all. The two wallets don't interact whatsoever on mobile. On desktop, however, the two would in fact conflict. So don't have two wallets over on one web browser, just like how I usually say.
Right.
All right, so over in MetaMask, Now, a recent update as of a few weeks ago added support for the Solana chain onto MetaMask desktop on the desktop extension. You can find it by going to the network selector up here in the top left corner of MetaMask. And then from here, you should see enable networks and you should see Solana. Now, if you're not seeing that, then you might need to update your MetaMask. So let's go over to the puzzle piece here by the extensions. Then we'll go to manage extensions. Now, the current version of MetaMask as of this meeting is 12.20.0. Now, if you have a lower version than that, I highly recommend you update it. And of course, if you're watching this video much later, then odds are good that number has gone up by now. So if you have a later version than this, well, you absolutely do have Solana available to you. But if you need to update it manually, you can do that by going over to developer mode. On your browser, this may be in a slightly different place, but in Brave, as well as in Chrome, it's located near the top right, developer mode. Make sure this toggle is switched to the on position. And then you can go over here to the left and click on update. And that will manually update all of your extensions, including MetaMask. It shows all of my extensions is updated, so we'll move on. So with MetaMask open and we verified that we do in fact have our Solana account enabled, we can now talk about acquiring Solana. Now, there are two main methods that people are going to use here on this call and probably watching this to acquire Solana. The first method is going to be to just simply buy it like you do with any other crypto token. And there's actually several exchanges that do support Solana. A few of the big ones being crypto.com, Binance, and Gemini. But if you want something that's more integrated with MetaMask, MetaMask does in fact support buying and selling of Solana. And it's like that reset there. So let's just go over it again. We're in the Solana chain and we can click on the buy and sell button. That'll open up MetaMask portfolio. And if you've never been here before, you may have to connect your wallets to the MetaMask portfolio. But then after you've done that, you can select your region as well as your currency. And then from there, you can input how much you're wanting to buy of Solana. Remember to pad your purchase a little bit due to exchange fees as well as swap fees and other fees associated with the network, as well as crypto exchanges in general. But from here, we can see that we have several options available to us for paying for Solana from fiat. We have Robinhood, we have Banksa, we have Link, we have Mercurio, and these options may not look the same to you based on where you are in the world, but this is what's available to me right now based off of the region information I put into MetaMask portfolio. So it's just something to keep in mind that you may not see any of these. Now, I also know that Transat also supports buying Solana. So that's the one that quite a few folks have had a bit of experience with. So if you see that and you know that you use that to purchase Binance coin when you were first getting started in pool funding, then absolutely use that. In fact, a good rule of thumb is to use whatever exchange you started out with when you start out with pool funding, because that exchange will have your KYC information still on file. So that'll make the transaction go a lot faster and a lot smoother for everyone involved. But failing that, if you don't want to buy Solana from fiat, then you absolutely can swap to Solana from either your BNB or USDT that you already have. So with that, we have two main options available to us for cross-chain swaps. That being simple swap for folks who live in the US, and for everyone outside the US, you can try FeedTheWorld. Now, I'll have links to both of these exchanges down in the video description. And in either of these two exchanges, you're going to want to set in the swap pair USDT on the BSC chain. You can see on FeedTheWorld, it's listed as Tether BP20. And on Simple Swap, it's listed as USDT BSC. And you're going to want to put the swap pair to swap to Solana. And just type in Sol, and it should be the first option you see in either case. This is just native Solana. This is in fact the Solana you're looking for. All right, when you check at order type, fixed rate is fine to leave as it is for pretty much all types of transactions, unless you have a really good reason for wanting a fixed rate in place. Keep it at the float rate, because that'll mean you pay a lower swap fee and exchange fee. So with that, we'll go ahead and assume that's what we're doing here. We're swapping from USDT to Solana. So we're going to do a bit of switching back and forth here, but first we want to copy our Solana address. And this works exactly the same as if we were copying our BSC address or our Ethereum address over in MetaMask. Just mouse over to the address here. You see mine starts with 50, and we'll click on it to copy to clipboard. Then we'll go ahead and paste it over in the destination field where it says your Solana address. All right, then we'll want to select how much USDT we're wanting to swap over to Solana. I'm going to swap $40 over to Solana or 40 USDT. And I already got an exchange quote here. So I'll go ahead and hit exchange now. All right, now I'm on the sending screen. So I'm going to copy this address. It gives me here to send the 40 USDT to. So I'll go ahead and hit the copy button. It's copied. Now I'll go up to MetaMask, and we're going to go to the network selector and switch over to Binance Smart Chain. I'll click on Binance Peg BUSDT. Then I'll hit the send button. Then I'll paste in the address I copied over from FeedTheWorld. I'll double check that that address looks correct. Yep, that looks correct. So I'll type in 40 USDT in the amounts field. I'll hit continue. Everything looks okay here, so I'll go ahead and click confirm. We'll wait until it shows us complete. And yep, there it is. I'll go to view activity. Yep, confirm send. So I'll go back to tokens. And then we can go back to FeedTheWorld, where we can see that FeedTheWorld has already received the USDT. So now it's doing the swap over to Solana. Usually this takes just a couple minutes at most. Both the Solana chain and the Binance Smart chain are pretty fast. And we can see that it's barely been a minute, and FeedTheWorld shows the Solana is being sent. So we'll go back up to MetaMask, and we'll switch back over to the Solana chain. And we can see that I now have more Solana in my wallet. So that's how to purchase Solana, either to purchase it from fiat or to swap to it from another token. If you have another token to swap besides USDT, you absolutely can do that too. Just replace the USDT I have here with whatever token you're wanting to swap from. You could absolutely do this from Bitcoin or Binance Coin or what have you, as long as it's supported. So are there any questions about that before we move on here? No? Okay, we'll move on then. And I'll go ahead and share my screen again. Now, next up, we're going to want to add the FeedTheWorld coin to our MetaMask. Now, unfortunately, there is a bit of a display bug in MetaMask currently, where MetaMask will not let you manually add tokens to your Solana wallet. So unfortunately, what we have to do now is swap a small amount of our Solana to FeedTheWorld token using the internal swap feature. And from there, MetaMask will go ahead and automatically add the token. First, we'll get the contract address for the FeedTheWorld token. And I pasted this in the Zoom chat, and I'll have this in the description as well. But you can also search for it in a block explorer like SoulScan. You can see we have the token address right here. So we'll go ahead and hit the copy address button. All right, and it's copied. So we'll go ahead and go back to MetaMask. And then we'll hit the swap button. Sol is fine to leave as it is, since that's the token we're swapping from. We're going to go ahead and hit the token trade pair here. In this case, it's sold to USDC. And we're going to go ahead and paste in the contract address we just copied from SoulScan. And we see that we have FW. Now that's the FeedTheWorld token. We'll click there. And we're going to swap just a small amount, unless all we want to do is just purchase the token in of itself without donating. But in either case, this will automatically add FW or FeedTheWorld token to our MetaMask wallet after we've done the swap. So we'll put in 0.05. Actually, no, we can put another 0 in there, and that'll be 72 cents worth. That way we can save more for the actual donation we're going to make. I'll hit submit. and then hit confirm. Sending. All right, swap has complete. And after that, you should see FeedTheWorld token added into your MetaMask Solana account. All right, are there any questions about that before we move forward? All right, then let's go over to FeedTheWorld initiative. Now, we went over this during the presentation call that was done during one of the last co-founder meetings. So I won't go too much into it, but suffice to say, FeedTheWorld is a charitable organization that one of our whales is a big member of and is a leading figure in this charitable organization. So if it's important to the whales, then it should be important to the rest of us as a community, if you ask me. Now, from here, there also are two ways to obtain the FeedTheWorld token. The first way is going to be scrolling down and hitting buy FW coin. Now, from here, you can actually purchase the FW token without the trading fee that MetaMask charges if you've already gotten the token in your wallet from another swap you did. And you can input the amount of SOL that you want to swap over. Now, this is not the same as a donation. This is you just purchasing the token. And if you want to continue, you can hit the Connect Wallet button up here. And you can go ahead and select MetaMask. And you can hit Trade now. I'm not going to do that because I'm here to make a donation, and ideally that's what all of us are here to do. So we're going to go ahead and hit the charity donations button. And you can see that takes us back to the main page of the FeedTheWorld initiative. And we're going to hit the Bytes Donate Now button. And from here, then we can make our donation. And what happens when we make a donation is FeedTheWorld is actually going to give us half of that value in FeedTheWorld tokens, just as a way of saying thank you. We'll go up to our Solana wallet and double check how much we're going to donate. I'm going to donate 0.3 Solana. That comes out to roughly $43.34. I'm going to enter in my name. And we can see the conversion rates and all the other information right here. Then we can hit Connect Wallet. And if I disable this. We have a bit of technical difficulties here, but I'll go ahead and hit pause here while I sort this out. And I'll go ahead and pause the recording. And we're back. So I took a quick look at what the issue was with MetaMask, and it turns out it doesn't appear that FeedTheWorld's, or at least that portion of the website, actually supports connecting with MetaMask at this time. That's actually to be expected by some different Web3 utilities because MetaMask supporting Solana is still a pretty new feature. So by this time, or time you're watching this, they might have actually resolved this by now. But in this case right now, since it's just us here, I'm going to go ahead and use the Brave Vault to finish this up. So we'll continue on just as before. I'll hit connect wallet. Selects the Solana account 1. I'll hit connect. And then I'll hit the continue button. And the Brave Vault is going to show me the transaction information.
Hunter, we're not seeing that information.
Are you seeing the screen itself?
We're just seeing the original donate to feed the world and connect wallet.
Oh, all
We
screen
didn't.
sharing is paused. Never mind. All right, I'll go ahead and resume. And I'll go ahead and reject this so we can see this again. All right, so I went ahead and connected my Brave Vault. So I'll go ahead and hit continue. And I can see the transaction information here, as well as the details. Everything looks good, so I'll go ahead and hit confirm. And I'll hit confirm again. And I'll wait until Brave shows the transaction is fully confirmed. There we go. And we should be able to look in my MetaMask wallet. And not sure why it isn't showing up yet. We'll look on SoulScan. All right, so I am seeing it here on SoulScan, so it could be that MetaMask just has a display bug going on right now. Let me switch back and forth between Solana accounts. I'll go ahead and lock MetaMask and then unlock it. Yep, and we can see that evidently the Solana integration into MetaMask wasn't quite ready for prime time, but I do see the extra FW or FeedTheWorld token coming into my Solana wallet, so it absolutely is there. So let's go back to FeedTheWorld initiative. And we did get a confirmation that the donation was done properly. And we can see that Soul was in fact sent out. So with that, that pretty much covers how to purchase and donate. So with that done, are there any questions about that process?
So at the end, you had the money coming out of your Brave wallet?
At the end, I had the money coming out of my Solana wallet because they were the same type of wallets. I just put it into a different application.
Okay. So it essentially came out of your MetaMask wallet?
Yes,
Okay. And then the Feed the World coins would go back into your MetaMask wallet?
yes.
Okay.
All right. Are there any further questions about what we've gone over or anything else regarding crypto before we close out here?
Connor,
Yes, Barry.
could you tell me how to update my MetaMax wallet?
All right, sure thing. Let me go ahead and share my screen again.
I'm on my iPhone.
Oh, on your iPhone,
Yeah.
now Apple usually keeps your apps up to date on the iPhone just on its own. So you really don't need to worry about that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Are there any further questions?
Regarding the Brave wallet, do
Yes.
you have that on the same browser as your MetaMask?
Yes, but I did have it disabled, so it could be that FeedTheWorld just detected the Brave wallets first because it was expecting a Solana first wallet. Because the integration of Solana into MetaMask is still on the newer side. But
Okay.
in cases where people aren't using the Brave browser, then that should absolutely go as planned with the MetaMask vaults because there won't be anything else for FeedTheWorld to detect. Because there were certain things that FeedTheWorld, at least that version, that part of the website was expecting first before it went on to MetaMask or any other Web3 wallet. So that's what happens here. That's what caused that issue here because Brave Wallets was installed on the MetaMask on the Brave browser. There's no way to take it off because it's integrated into Brave itself, but you can absolutely disable it so it doesn't come up in most situations.
Oh,
Now
okay.
that's why I did here beforehand, but evidently FeedTheWorld must have detected that I was using the Brave browser, so it was expecting the Brave wallet first and
Okay.
foremost.
Okay.
So that's just something to keep in mind, I suppose, for anyone here or watching who uses the Brave browser.
So the other night when they introduced the Feed the World project, the gentleman who spoke about it, I think his name was Mbaye.
Bay and Bay,
He
that's
mentioned
something that
a phantom wallet.
Phantom Vault. Now that's technically the wallet of choice for a lot of people that use the Solana chain as their mainline chain. You can absolutely use that, and that's what I recommend doing for folks watching who are using the mobile version of MetaMask, since MetaMask on mobile doesn't support Solana yet. And if you want to use that on desktop, you absolutely can, but you do have to make sure that you disable your MetaMask wallet before you enable your Phantom wallet. And then when you're done with your Phantom wallet, you can disable it and re-enable your MetaMask wallet. Either that or store them on two separate browsers.
That was going to be my
Bec-
next next question. Yeah, so you could
because
have one on Firefox and one on Chrome, or one on Chrome and
yeah,
one on Brave, or whatever. Okay.
yeah, because otherwise the two are just going to conflict with each other, especially if you're trying to make your pool funding payments.
Right,
So
right. Yes, and we've run into that a few times, haven't we?
yes, we have.
Great.
All
Thank
right,
you, Hunter. You did a great job explaining everything.
no problem. Are there any further questions? And I see we have Justine has just joined us. I'm sorry, Justine, but you're joining us pretty much at the tail end of the call, basically. I'll have the recording up after it gets processed and I'm able to upload it to my YouTube channel. I'll be posting the link in the Telegram chat, the Wall of Joy. But with that in mind, does anyone have any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hunter. That was great.
All righty. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.